we have people joining from all over the country. And Praveen, I think you can just start the introductory part, right? It is
Yes.
exactly 11. Yes, you can start.
Should I start?
Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. On the behalf of Central India Academy of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons, I welcome everyone on this webinar, that is alveolar spleage and expansion technique. Dr. Varsha Manekar is today's speaker, and as per the tradition of CIOMS, this is the 9th consecutive webinar we are conducting for the academic benefits of the students as well as the maxillofacial surgeons. So this topic is the advanced topic as far as the implantology is concerned, and our eminent speaker, she is doing her PhD topic on this. Is her PhD topic, so I definitely think that it will give the feast of her knowledge on this topic. So I will introduce today's speaker, Dr. Varsha Manekar. She is the associate professor working at Government Dental College and Hospital, Nagpur. She has been graduated and post-graduated from the Government Dental College and Hospital, Nagpur, and Maharashtra University of Health Sciences. She is having the vast working experience of 28 years. She is a FEMER fellow, and she is faculty for the research methodology also. She has the scientific publications to national and international review at the number of 16th, and she has been attended so many conferences, delivered so many guest lectures. So I think I can continue with her biodata is very large, but I will restrict myself at this point only, because we also need to carry on our today's main topic also. So I hand over mic to Chenoy sir for the further proceedings.
Thank you, Praveen. I think we should not waste time. We have a lot of people waiting, and Manekar madam is also very enthusiastic about speaking about her favorite topic on alveolar ridge and expansion. Welcome, madam. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Shenoy. Thank you for all those good words. Thank you, Dr. Praveen, for introducing me. Good morning to all the participants. I have seen.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. I have seen my friends, Dr. Vandana, Dr. Ade. I have not seen other names, but I welcome all of you for this webinar. Even as the secretary of CIOMS, we are trying to put new topics for the webinars. So coming to the today's topic, that is management of horizontally deficient alveolar ridge, that is the narrow ridge, by alveolar ridge split and expansion. So as we all know that there is a loss of alveolar bone in the height and width as the duration of the edentulism increases. So there is but what we need is an adequate bone quality and quantity for the long-term implant success. Now this alveolar ridge split and expansion, to gain that ridge width which is missing at the because of the healing of the wound or in the edentulous ridges, what is done here is it is a horizontal augmentation of the alveolar edentulous ridge through the mid-crestal split and separation of both cortical bone segments with or without the bone grafting and or immediate implant replacement. So it is very important how to identify the horizontally deficient alveolar ridge. Now here I would like to say that originally this proposed for where the multiple or stage procedures with prolonged healing intervals and increased cost and postoperative discomfort, those procedures were done. But there is a refinement in the techniques and indications which has led to the faster, less invasive and predictable treatment available for the alveolar ridge split. Now, how to identify it clinically? We look for the length, is the mesiodistal width, then we look for the buccolingual width and the height, that is depth available for the implant. Now, when we look at clinically, the on inspection or on palpation, we see any deficiency on the buccal cortex or the lingual cortex. When we see this from the occlusal side, that this deficiency is evident. Let us go through few pictures where we can find out clinically how this buccal plate is deficient. Now, if we follow from this lingual side, it is following the proper lingual position, but in the buccal side, it is deficient. So we can inspect this and we can palpate it also. Now, coming to the second image, similarly, we can see that there is a buccal deficiency. Okay. Then this is in the anterior region. In the anterior region, many a times because of trauma or during the extraction, there may be loss of the buccal alveolar plate. This is a common finding in the anterior region. And then this is a static region also. So we examine it properly at the clinical level only. Now we can use this probe for the measurement of the width. The more proper instrument here is the Reach Mapper. Reach Mapper is a very good instrument for using in the measurement. This is a beautiful instrument. It is like a caliper. It can be used at the inspection level also, palpation level also, and it can be used at the intraoperative level also to see the width of the reach available. So we can correlate our the next is 2D imaging is not very important in this, but what is important is the CBCT, the cross section. Here we can have a triangle of bone decision tree where we can see the buccal cortex, the lingual cortex, the cancellous bone, intervening cancel bone, and a relation with the whiter structures. So we can determine the width and length of the proposed improve this. Okay, so coming to the actual CBCT, so we need to see all the sections, or we can run the video in the CBCT imaging to see the proper positioning of the buccal cortex, the lingual cortex, the intervening cancellous bone, the width at the crest, and the width at the 2 to 3 mm below the crest. Then we can even see the relationship with the adjacent whiter structures, which is of paramount importance. So here we can decide the size of the implant which is needed and we have to keep ready. Similarly, in the posterior region, the buccal cortex is most of the times very thick, the lingual cortex. Then we have to look for the angulation of the alveolus. This is the, here we can even see this width at the crest, the relationship with the whiter structures, the quality of the bone which is intervening. These are the things we should look for. Then this is a different type of cross section, which is a hourglass appearance. Sometimes we see this type of condition and we need to diagnose it and plan it for the treatment. So CBCT cross sections are very important for this evaluation. Now there are different images we can see in the narrow reach. So let us go through images which will show us the horizontal bone loss. So in these pictures, it is a mild horizontal loss. We see the good buccal cortex, the thickness, the of the buccal and the lingual cortex is good. Then we can see the intervening cancellous bone. Now this is a mild and this is a moderate horizontal bone loss. What you see here is the curvature of the buccal cortex is getting more curved. It is getting more undercuts. So this is a moderate and this is a severe type of horizontal bone loss. Now in the last image, we can see there are two buccal and a lingual cortices and there is hardly any bone. There are different approaches to manage the horizontal alveolar dimension loss. So among all these, we will be concentrating on the re-splitting and the expansion technique today. So if we go to the review of literature, Tatum was the first one to introduce this type of method in which we can put do the split and move those two cortices to put the implant. Then Simeon in 1992 used the number of chisels to do this alveolar resplit, and he published a long prospective study on it. Then Summers 1994 introduced number of osteotomes of increasing size, and he used it with the fill thickness flap, hand in cutting in osteotomes and surgical mallet to develop the implant osteotomies. And this is the method most of the people are using even till date. Then came the piezoelectric ridge expansion, the long-term series published by Veselotti. The anatomical requirement is from the Barseti's systematic review is minimum horizontal bone width of 2 mm, minimum vertical bone height of 10 mm, no concavity in the bone profile, and horizontal osteotomies have to end at least 1 mm before the neighboring teeth. But after that, then the microsaw device was introduced in 2005 by Shu. These piezoelectric devices were introduced. So the refinement in the procedures of the alveolar resplit and expansion has occurred. Now I'll be explaining these methods in the second part of my presentation. So in the first part of the presentation, just go through the different methods of resplits available in the literature. Now these are the different classifications. We all who do the implants, we follow these classifications. But I would like to mention here the classification by Len Tolstono. He has worked extensively on the ridge augmentations, ridge split with sinus slip. He has published a book on it. There are 2 volumes of it. So this is clinically and surgically relevant anatomic classification. It is from 0 to 7. It is accompanied with the schematic diagrams, indications of surgery, possibility of immediate implant placement, and suggested operator's experience. This is the rest of this classification. Let us go to the classification. This classification, the 0 is more than 10 mm, 1 is 8 to 10 mm, 2 is 6 to 10 mm, and in class 2, where the reach is 6 to 8 mm and there is a mild discrepancy, which can be managed with the resplit. Of course, this can be also managed with the GBR. Now coming to the class 3. In the class 3, it is a moderate type of deficiency. Then there is an, this can be treated with the resplit. This is an ideal width. Class 3 is an ideal width for the resplit management. But it can also be managed with the block grafts or the GBR. Now coming to the class 4, which is a severe type of deficiency. It has 2 to 3 mm of the crestal width. So this is all can be also managed with the resplit, or the second option is the on-lay graft procedure. So in this class 4, we have an option whether immediately we can insert the implant, or we can wait for the healing of the alveolar wound and then implant after 6 months. Whereas in the class 3 and in the class 2, we can do the immediate implant insertion. Now class 5 is extreme loss of alveolar ridge. Here we cannot do the resplit, that is for GBR. And then there is a class 6, that is a hourglass appearance. Remember, I had shown one cross section of CBCT. It has wide opening up, and there is a narrow at the apical side. This is very nicely managed with the resplit. I'll be showing few cases with this type, and we can do the immediate implant insertion. Then the last 7 is a bottleneck. Here we can do some just reshaping, and we can insert the implant. So while taking the decision of resplit and augmentation, where the good height is available, I feel this classification by Lane Tolstoy is very helpful in decision making. So I am using this classification for the decision making of the ridge split. So alveolar ridge split and expansion, in this we are making a longitudinal osteotomy where the buccal part is moved on the buccal side. So it creates a swell space making defect in the atrophied alveolar crest. The mechanism involves lateral positioning of the buccal cortical plate. A longitudinal osteotomy results in formation of new implant bed. So we can insert the implant V-shaped defect. Now this is very important for the prosthetically driven implants. So if we look at this alveolar ridge and the position of the original position of the tooth, and if we insert the implant in this alveolar ridge, then we may have the tooth which is not prosthetically driven, the implant which is not prosthetically driven. Whereas if we manipulate this ridge and then we put the insert the implant, this is green colored implant, then we are putting this in the prosthetically driven position. It is more evident in cases where if we see this from the occlusal side. Now this implant inserted without doing any augmentation will be little on the lingual side. If we put it after doing the buccal augmentation, then we can see the this implant is now prosthetically driven along the occlusal surface. So it is 1 to 2 mm inside the buccal side of the other adjacent teeth. Now I have mentioned the reference here. In this web article, I have found these beautiful diagrams with which I could explain this prosthetically driven placement of the implant so that we can improve our position of implant even if we have sufficient width of the alveolus available. So to narrate what we have discussed up till now, alveolar bone width of 3 mm to 6 mm with at least 1 mm of trabecular bone should be there for ridge split. The cortical bone crates get divided. The bone splits on either side of ridge, moving apart to create an opening in the center, which is occupied by the inserted implants. Now, this type of ridges we can see. Then, this is the manipulation of the buccal alveolar plate, which is done in this ridge split and expansion, and this is a implant insert. So the concept is to manipulate the residual bone to create an intrabony cavity with a wider base or taller roof, which heals like an extraction site by allowing access for the mesenchymal stem cells and normal wound healing mechanism. We should be very clear that the ridge split procedure is intended primarily for the narrow alveolar ridges with preserved height. So the sufficient amount of bone height is available. Now, what are the instruments which we can use for this? The different instruments for alveolar split, that is for the longitudinal osteotomy, are the thin burr. Then we can use the disc or saw, and we can use the piezo attachment. Now, this will show how the piezo tip can be used. This is very good to use. This is a piezo tip which can be used with support to the alveolus, and we can use this piezo tip horizontally to produce the longitudinal defect. And this is how it looks if we look at the from occlusally. Now the alveolar expansion can be done with different instruments, that is Summers osteotome with the hand expanders, electric driven expanders. Now the osteotomes, as it has been designed by Summers, they are available with different companies. The longitudinal osteotomy is expanded with serially increasing diameter of the osteotomes. So this is how the increased diameter of the osteotomes are used, and then the implant is inserted or the graft is placed and then it is left for healing. Then there are the chisels available which can also be used for splitting after longitudinal osteotomy. The chisels can be used for the expansion of these two parts. Then there are some publications which shows the hand expander, and these hand expanders will do the green stick fracture of the buccal plate, where the implant will be inserted. Now the recently available are the minimal bone fracture with high stability, the electric driven expanders. They have controlled insertion, then they cause the bone tapping, expansion as well. So the instruments available in these new kits are the disc for split and the expanders, which are electric driven of increasing size, and some kits have the height specific expanders as well. Now these are the three companies with which these are available, and here in our area the Encium and the ISET kit is available, which most of the people are using it, and I have seen people doing beautiful reach split with these kits. So these rotary expanders, they work on the principle of osteocondensation like osteotomes. Advantage is of reduced patient's manipulation compared with osteotomes. It is effective even in the mandible, where access and bone density prevent the use of osteotomes. The technique maintains native bone on the implant surface, may need use of a slow turnover of graft material. Sometimes we have to use the graft material and resorbable membranes, and if we have to use it for less than 3 mm, then we need the osteomobilization. The indication is where there is ridge width is 3 to 6 mm of buccal lingual width. Cellular ridges appear to have an appropriate for from a surgical perspective, that is 6 to 7 mm, but aesthetically or prosthetically still show insufficient buccal projection, alveolar crest, and thus can be considered for ridge widening procedures. So these are the improper position of ridge, improper angulation of the ridge, and insert to insert the indicated size of implant. Now these can be used in single, multiple, as well as complete edentulous alveolus in maxilla as well as in the mandible. Now let us focus on what are the types of expansion techniques. So the ridge expansion techniques can be broadly categorized as osteocondensation and osteomobilization. Now what is osteocondensation? The term used for the lateral compression condensation of bone. This results in increased peri-implant bone density and bone to implant contact and increased ridge width at the osteotomy site. The instruments used for osteocondensation are osteotomes and rotary expanders of increasing diameter, and it is indicated in case of 3 to 6 mm of alveolar ridge width and the adequate height. Now this diagram explains the osteocondensation, where there is a actually densification of the bone. Then the next is the osteomobilization. It involves the use of precise bone osteotomies of individual alveolus. There are two horizontal and two vertical cuts given, that is crestal and apical 10 mm apart, and mesial and distal, which is usually minimum 7 mm apart, to allow progressive intraoperative manipulation and outward mobilization of buccal bone. The outcome is an expansion defect that opens crestally like a book at its binding. The defect created has its widest dimension crestally and tapers apically. This is a most commonly used technique if we go through the literature. So here we can see the horizontal osteotomy and the vertical osteotomy. Most of the time the green stick fracture is done at the apical horizontal osteotomy. So this vertical cross section shows the crestal osteotomy, apical corticotomy, and this buccal plate will be moved on the buccal side. In case this periosteal flap is reflected, then we have two options. We can put the graft material here, and after expanding this, we can put a graft material here, do the suturing, let it heal, and then put the implant after 6 months, or can insert the implant, if we have a primary stability, then we do GBR from the buccal side and then close this. So grafting and or fixation of the fractured buccal segment can be completed using GBR principles with or without simultaneous implant placement and primary soft tissue closure. The buccal segment often ends up with a limited or complete compromise of the buccal supply, acting as a free graft with a high risk of insertion. This is indicated in mild to moderate narrow ridges. There is other technique that is called as book flap green stick fracture. Here, this bucco-osteoperiosteal flap is developed. So there is no reflection of the mucoperiosteal flap. Minimum reflection at the crestal level is done. The green stick fracture is done here. So there is a continuation of the buccal flap, and then we can insert the implant immediately. In case there is some issue of the buccal fragment, then we can even the graft and wait for the secondary healing. The second is island flap. The difference here is this buccal fragment in the buccal osteoperiosteal flap is separated from the bone. Here we can insert the bone graft, let it heal for 6 months, and then we can insert the implant over here. Now, all of you will agree, those who work on the implant, they will agree, in the narrow ridges, already this is very narrow, this cancellous bone is very little, and this cortical bone is also reduced, the width of the cortical bone is also reduced. It's very difficult to manipulate this buccal bone and do this vertical cutting, separate it, develop a buccal osteoporosis, and manipulate at this level. For this technique, the 7, 8, 9, 10 rule is there. That means the vertical cut should be having minimum 7 to 8 mm bone length. The bone distance between the two horizontal cuts should be minimum of 9 to 10 mm. And average size implant which we can insert here is 4 to 10 mm. Now this osteotomy looks like this in the patient. The parallel vertical to horizontal osteotomies. You can even do the 3 osteotomies, the horizontal and 2 vertical. If it is having less density, we can manipulate even doing without the cutting of the apical horizontal osteotomy. Then bone spreading is needed, which will be done either with the osteotome or with any more new technique for the expansion. You can even use the expansion screws or the rotary instruments. Both this bone condensation and bone osteomobilization can be done as a stage approach. That is, we can insert the implant at the first stage, or we can insert the implant at the second stage. Now, these are the 10-step pre-operative diagnostic workup for the Ridge-Split procedure. Again, it has been given by the Tolstoy. Now, if we see first 4 points, these are the routine evaluation. So, let me look for this 5th one, that is edentulous region evaluation. So, the first is skeletal mandibular relation, the prosthetic profile, the aesthetic profile, and the periodontal profile. The 5th one is a actual local site of examination. Here, A is the alveolar length, alveolar width, and the interocclusal height. B is a manual digital palpation of the ridge, that we have to look for thickness, uniformity, presence of the undercut, then condition of buccal and the palatal plates. Then ridge mapping should be done to see the width of the alveolus. The 6th point is the radiographical examination. We have seen this in detail. Lab workup, we can prepare the surgical guide, then we'll have the diagnosis. The next point is very important, the treatment plan consideration. That we'll see in detail. So in this treatment plan consideration for our procedure, the important questions we should answer before we start our work. What is the bone augmentation procedure of the choice? It can be GBR, it can be Ridge-Split. So here we are considering Ridge-Split. If it is ARSP, whether it is single stage with limited flap, whether it is two stage, full thickness flap, or partial thickness flap, or it is a combination type of flap. Papilla preservation incision or not, we are using or not. If a two-stage procedure is chosen, when will the stage 2 be performed? 3 to 5 weeks later. What type of bone graft, geno versus allograft or mixed type, whether we are using the membrane, whether resorbable membrane or non-resorbable. When should an implant phase be planned? Simultaneously with split or graft, or delayed? If delayed or postponed, when we should put it? Then should a soft tissue procedure needed, whether we are planning any tissue graft. So these are the points we have to consider in the pre-surgical workup phase of the implant placement. So we have gone through these steps, that is clinical examination, the CBCT evaluation. Now coming to the surgical planning. The steps of surgery are routine pre-operative patient preparation with consent, soft tissue approach, that is incision and flap, then the pilot drill for position of the implant site, crestal corticotomy followed by vertical corticotomy and expansion, and implant insertion, GBR and suturing. These are the steps which are used in this. The different steps of flaps which can be taken are the full thickness, partial thickness, flapless, depending on the mobilization which need. These are the few points I would like to highlight when we are doing the re-split and expansion. We have to pay attention to tactile, visual and auditory cues in order to avoid sudden fracture of the buccal bone or loss of vertical reference. Slow, progressive, repetitive bending and relaxation of the buccal bone is necessary to produce the desired expansion result. Use tapered implant design to enhance and support the expansion. Implant primary stability and bone flap stability are required for maintenance of vascularity, viability, and implant integration. Intermittent insertion of the surgical template helpful for determining implant site development, dimensions, inter-implant positioning. As the buccal bone is manipulated facially, the expansion defect can be opened further with apical and 3D position adjustments using piezosurgery or rotary instruments. An implant design with an active cutting thread and tapered body design can function like a rotary expander, reducing the amount of initial osteomobilization needed. There are some anatomical factors we should consider in this procedure. The first is the cortical thickness and density. It affects the flexibility of the buccal bone. We have to look for the undercut in the vertical dimension. It will act as a buttress of the buccal plate, reducing its mobility and increasing the risk of fracture or apical 1/3 buccal perforation. Volume of the medullary component, it will affect in the when increasing atrophy is there. Mesiolateral dimension, as we increase the mesiodistal dimension of our workup, more number of implants we are going to plan, then there will be a difficulty in moving the buccal plate. In the horizontal undercut, that there may be a buttress in the buccal plate which will reduce the mobility. Then the minimum size of implant design which we can use here should not be implant with the increased size than the 4.3 will significantly increase the risk of fracture. So we have to put the implant which is below the 4.5 size depending on the width available. Implant design should have an aggressive tapered micro geometry with a non-expanded collar. So these are very important points. Up till now I have covered the theory part of it. The next part of this is the minimally invasive technique using the new re-split expander kits available. Those are the rotary type of expanders. Let us have question session here if we have any questions. Otherwise, then we can go ahead with the second part.
Praveen?
Oh, sir.
I'm sorry I didn't have the time to forward it to you. There is a question from Dr. Shruti Jain. So she is asking, is osteocondensation visible in cortical bone as in mandible?
निकलता ना गाड़ी बैठना मेरी बारी 2 मिनट में लाता चलो साथ में चलो
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, Varsha.
आप निकलो
Yeah.
The question is osteocondensation visible in cortical bone as in mandible?
Yes, it is possible.
हाँ वही तो
It is possible. I will show the few cases where we have done this osteocondensation even in the mandible. It is possible.
Okay. Praveen,
Yes, any more questions from the other participants?
yeah, Praveen, I am not getting the time to forward it to you, so you'll have to pardon me
Yes,
for that. So the question is,
Yes,
madam, how to manage buccal cortical fracture in hourglass deformity with periosteal detachment?
Cortical fracture depends on how much fracture has occurred. If it is just a vertical discontinuity, then you can manage it with GBR. If it is a big fracture, you will have to fix it with some cortical screws, and then you can do the grafting and let it heal. So we have to decide whether with that fracture we can manage the placement of implant with GBR. If we feel that we cannot manage the buccal bone available and the primary stability of the implant, then we have to go for the secondary implant placement. Then you can put the graft in the position, let it heal for 6 months, and then go for the second stage implant placement.
There are a few questions that have been forwarded to Praveen. I will, in the meantime, I'll ask a question. Is piezo surgery better than conventional techniques?
Piezo surgery is definitely better, but the problem with the piezo is that in piezo kit there is no expander. We have conducted this study in our department by one of my postgraduates. We have compared the piezo split with the electric driven resplit. So the problem is that the piezo is very good to do the vertical split, but there are no expanders available. So we have to team up with some good expanders. For the vertical resplit, the longitudinal split, piezo is very good.
Hello. Hi, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. This is Dr. Vipin.
Hello,
Do you hear me,
Vipin.
ma'am?
Yeah, I
Hi,
can
ma'am.
hear you.
Yeah. I just want to add something regarding the piezo. I am routinely using it. For expanders, we can use a denser along with the piezo. It will be very beneficial for that.
That's what I said, that we can team up with some other instrument to use expansion.
Because with this or some this resplit equipment. Most in few cases we get a fracture of that. Stop using this asset and I start with piezo because it was very difficult when you have a thin buccal vein. Do you hear me, ma'am?
You are not very clear.
Sorry. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
No, Vipin gave some good pointers. I think Praveen is not, his audio is not on. So I will ask another question. Are there any uses of GTR versus GBR membrane in implantology?
Actually, I am not talking about GBR because our topic is resplit. So the membranes, it is a different topic only for discussion.
Okay. I think we can go ahead.
Okay.
We have logins from all over the country, from all parts of the country, Varsha. That's very creditable.
That's good.
So I think Praveen is not there. But his audio is not on. I don't know why. So
Can you see my screen now?
yeah, we can see you, no problems. Okay. So we have
Screen
Abhay
is,
Katarkar also joining in, and we have Kavita, we have Srijit, we have so many people who have joined in. Dhananjay Berde, Sangeeta Vanjari, Venkatesh Sahu, many people, Hirkani Attarde, Chinmay, so many people have joined. Pardon me if I
yeah,
am not taking the names of some people, but thank you
yeah,
for logging in.
I am thankful to all who have joined, and hello from my side, everyone.
Yes.
Do we have to wait for Praveen, or we should
No, you
proceed?
can start. Varsha.
Okay,
He's trying to reconnect actually.
okay.
Okay,
I'm
before
having some
Varsha,
questions.
Varsha,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
question which Praveen was to ask you, but anyway, I have it. So
Hmm.
the question is, what is the effect of ridge split procedure on soft tissues in the anterior aesthetic zone? This question is from Jignesh.
Yeah. When we are doing the resplit, we are increasing the volume of alveolus in that region. So definitely consider this point whether that soft tissue cover is sufficient to produce the primary suturing. In cases where there is a less defect, then we can just release the periosteum and close it. Uh, the second way is putting the gingival former around which we can do the suturing. And the third is putting a collagen sheet or the membrane so that the tissue can be managed. And the last one is putting a graft if it is too much deficient. Many a times in the anterior region, the soft tissue are really not good to cover the bone, especially if there is a history of traumatic extraction or trauma to that region.
Okay, I think we can go ahead. Praveen is, I think, having some issues. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So let us start with the second part of it. As Vipin was talking, he is also using this type of method very regularly. This is a rotary expander. It is a minimally invasive technique, and the advantages of this technique is a simultaneous implant placement, shorter treatment time. There is a less discomfort. The restoration of the buccal arch dimension for restorative driven implant position. The steps here are these are the steps I have used in all of my cases, whether it is in any corner of the mouth, and they have given very good results. The first step is full thickness flap, then reduction of the crest of alveolar ridge if needed, then marking of the implant site with the pilot drill. Next is a longitudinal osteotomy with the saw or disc from the kit, use of serial expanders from the ridge expansion, then preparation of complete length of osteotomy, insertion of implant, cover screw, followed by the suturing. So these are the 5 steps used in all the cases which I'll be showing now. So let us go through few schematic diagrams. So the first step is the full thickness mucoperiosteal flap. This is a ridge reducer which is available in the new kits. Here we have to reduce that narrow crest to the little horizontal crest so that we can see the buccal and the lingual cortices. Next is we have to use this 1.4 twist drill for the complete length with the 600 to 800 RPM. So this is for the marking of the implant site. Next is the engine driven disc is used with 600 to 800 RPM so that we can produce the vertical longitudinal osteotomy in the alveolus, which is actually a splitting of buccal and the lingual cortices. Now it should be exactly in the cancellous bone, considering the buccal and the lingual cortical width. And we have to be extremely careful while doing this step because this You can see this edge of this disc is very scary. Moving it even in the low speed, if you slip from the alveolus, you may be damaging the buccal mucosa, the lingual mucosa, the floor of the mouth, and it's very difficult to manage if you have a severe bleeding after the damage. So these are the first steps. Coming to the next step, where we are going to use the progressive expansion screws with diameter. They are inserted at the sides using a handpiece at low speed, 30 to 50 RPM. Now it depends on the quality of the bone. If it is too dense, we may have to increase the RPM. If it is not very dense, we can reduce the RPM. So maximum torque used here is 50 NCM, or a hand ratcheting device sometimes can also be helpful. So serial expanders can be used to expand this longitudinal osteotomy which we have created. Then the next is, one second, there is some problem. Okay. The next is insertion of the implant. Once the osteotomy sites are prepared, we can appreciate the increase in the width of the longitudinal osteotomy. Then the suture. So let's see it in the patient case. This is a case where posterior teeth are missing. So this was how it was planned. One premolar, that is 4-5 for immediate implant, and then the area next to it was planned for the resplit. The width here is 4.8 mm and 11.8 is the height available. Then this is the first, the ridge reduction. You can see the buccal and the lingual alveolar plate, and this bleeding area is a cancellous bone. The next step is taking a plilet drill for the implant position. Now this implant which is seen here, this was a immediate implant which was placed in the premolar. Then I did the ridge split over here, and you can see this longitudinal osteotomy which is increased after the insertion of the implant. This is with the okay, let us go through the OPG. This is a case where the planning is the extraction of this extraction of this root pieces, immediate implant in the premolar region, and a resplit in the 6th region. And this is how the implant is inserted. This was done just before the lockdown, so I don't have CBCT of this patient. And because there was a little buccal bone loss, I have inserted it little down, more apically, and vital structure was within control. So when we have little more caudal bone and we cannot do expansion just with the expanders, this is very helpful. 2 vertical cuts and 1 horizontal cut, which is we have already done. And this is a beautiful flat osteotome available. This will help in widening that plate. So this is a osteomobilization, very minimally invasive. We can use it for the cases. So to the question which we had discussed, that whether we can do alveolar resplit in different areas. So I will be showing the cases of these different areas where we can do this resplit. Now the cases different cases come up to us, and we never have an ideal case to manage. So these cases can be a single implant, it can be a long edentulous span with sinus lift, adjacent immediate implant, and in case of edentulous mandible. So this is a first case. Let us see. In the anterior region, the missing single tooth, we can see the defect on the buccal side. Okay, so this is after the reduction of the alveolus. This is the bilateral. Then after osteotomy, and this is because there was a little defect, the small defect buccally, I have done the GBR over here. This is a free of CBCT. The crestal width is 3.6, and we can see here though there is a good buccal cortication, but there is a lot of curvature over here. So in manipulating this curvature, there was little discontinuation of the buccal cortex. Okay. The second case where there are number of multiple anterior teeth missing, the implants were planned in 2-1 region. Here we can see that this cortication of buccal is little less. Then this type of bone is also D2, D3. Here I have inserted 3.5 long implant by manipulating the buccal cortex. Then in 1-1 region, again the quality of bone is not good. Here I have inserted 3.5 implant, long implant. And in the canine region, the quality of bone is still not good. It is D3 type. And I have inserted a wider implant in this region because 5 mm. Let us look at intraoperative pictures. These are the 3 osteotomy sites for the implant. And this is the buccal plate. We can see that there was little discontinuation of the buccal plate. This I have managed with the GBR. And this is how the case was finished. After 6 months, the gingival formers, the abutments, then the trial, and this is the pre and the post processes. Basically, patient comes to us for the processes. Now, this is the anterior region. Many cases for anterior region are indicated for GBR or the reed split. The next is the posterior region. In this case, we have to look for the quality of the bone and the relation of the sinus over here. In this case, I have done the immediate implant in the premolar and resplit in the 6th region. This is the cross of the cross section of the
Hello.
yeah. So 5.5
Hello?
width was available and this is the height available. In this IFA, we can see this immediate implant placed in the premolar, and this is a 6th region. There is a good bone on the distal side, and I anticipated the healing in this extraction socket, but I had exposure of the rings in this case in the 1 year post-op radiogram. The first ring was exposed. I don't have that IFA here, but in long term, this one ring was exposed. So definitely there is a loss of bone when you have the extraction socket surrounding. So this is a intraoperative image. This is the immediate implant, the first pilot drill. This is the split done with the in this region, and this is the implant in place. This is a 4.5 size implant, and this is a case finished with the process. Coming to the this case was referred to me for the indirect sinus. This patient had initially only 3 to 4 mm of the height available. Then the dentist who referred to me had treated it with the open sinus lift. We can make out this the bone, which is actually the buccal plate, which was pushed in the open lift. But it was having a narrow reach plus the very less, that is 7 mm of the bone available. So how I managed this case is, I did the re-split and I have done the sinus lift. This is the 5 mm size implant I have inserted here. We can see this is the old sinus level. This was that buccal ledge we could see in the CBCT. This is the implant inserted, and this is the implant inserted after the indirect sinus lift, and this is the new position of the sinus lining. In the anterior region of mandible, where D1 type of bone is seen, many a times you will see the thick corticated buccal and the lingual cortex. Osteomobilization. Now this case I have done only with the osteocondensation with the rotary extenders. Let us go through the intraoperative. This is pre-op. Then after exposure, full thickness mucoperiosteal flap, the irregular reach can be seen. This is after reduction of the reach. We can appreciate the buccal and the lingual cortex and intervening cancellous bone. This is the implant in place. This is with the implant mount. We can see the buccal bone which is intact. And this is the occlusal view, how much I could expand it. We are not always lucky to do such type of expansions. the pre and post, we can see there is buccal level of the cervical level bone is very good, and this is 1 year post op CBCT. Sorry, this is a OPG, and the adjacent teeth are the immediate implant. In the cross section, we can see the cross section hardly bone available is 4.3. Size of the implant I have inserted is the 4 mm implant. In the next side, the width available is 3.2. I was lucky enough to manipulate this buccal cortex, and the implant I have inserted is the 4 mm. This is how the case was finished with the prosthesis. Next case of the mandibular posterior region, again I have used osteocondensation here with the rotary expanders. There are 3 implant sites which are used for the insertion of implant. We can see this long longitudinal osteotomy and 3 implant osteotomies done. This is the implant inserted with the implant mount. These are the ostium implants. This is the photograph is not good. These are the abutments in place, and this is the prosthesis in place. Pre and post of CBCT images, these are the 3 implants inserted at different sites. If we see the cross section, again I was lucky enough to expand it properly so that I could put the implant of sufficient diameter. These are the 4.5 diameter implants. Coming to this, an interesting case where in the anterior region, I needed the immediate implant in blocked out tooth. Then these 2 teeth were needed some manipulation. In the region of this right side, it was too thin, and in the region of the left central inside, some bone which I could manage with the resplit. So how I managed here is the extraction of this tooth, the resplit in the left central incisor, and the GBR in the right central incisor. This is how the buccal cortex and moved to the buccal side, and the immediate implant was inserted in this osteotomy in this central incisor, the resplit and expansion, and GBR in the right central incisor, and it was covered with the membrane, and then this was suture. If we go to this tooth was treated with root canal later on. If we go through the cross section where I have done the resplit, you can see this curvature over here, which was manipulated to insert this implant, and this is a 4 mm size implant. This is an interesting case where there was a hourglass appearance of the bone. Along with that, we have done the immediate implant placement. This is a case of ectodermal dysplasia. Number of teeth are missing. Anterior teeth, hardly any width of the bone was there. So we concentrated on the posterior side. Here in the cross section, in the CBCT OPG section, you can see that the length available is not good. So we have extracted all these deciduous teeth, and here you can see the hourglass appearance of the region in the deciduous canine region. Even in the first premolar, that is the deciduous first molar region, there is a hourglass appearance. Only in the case of E, the width was good. So what we did is we extracted this tooth available. Then this one tooth was extracted. Here the width was not good. We have not inserted any implant here. We have done the resplit in these 2 and the implant insertion in the E region, that is the second premolar region. Okay, so we can see here. Okay, so we can see here that how these are not helping me. Okay, how this osteotomy has increased after insertion of the implant. You can make out this osteotomy increase. I have manipulated this hourglass alveolus with the expanders, and I could put good size of implant over here. These are 4.5 size implants, and this is again 4.5 implant done with the normal implant osteotomy. If we see the buccal side of this, I was able to manage this properly so that there is the drill has not gone through the buccal cortex. Now this is a case of the edentulous patient where there was a sufficient width in the one second. Okay. In the central region, it was a sufficient width, but in the lateral incisor, there was a sufficient width. What I did, so I had the expansion in the two central implant, and I finished this edentulous patient with 4 implants inserted. Now, this case 10 is a lot of dense bone in the posterior region. These are the clinical pictures where the trimming is done, the crestal trimming. Then this is a longitudinal osteotomy. Then this is a implant osteotomy. Implant to insert with the engine-driven instruments, and these are the implant in place. So this is a mandibular posterior region, quite dense bone. I could manage with the osteocondensation with the engine-driven expanders. Yes, there are limitations. The presence of the layer of the cancellous bone decides whether how we'll be able to control two cortices. Then too much of buccal inclination can be taken if we are doing the osteomobilization. So we have to look for the position of the implant. Of course, it is a little technique sensitive. We have to understand many things when we are working on these type of instruments. Maybe initially the resplit technique was little cumbersome, so there were limited people used to do it, but with the newer kits and guided bone regeneration, we use the resplit routinely for all the cases. I keep my resplit kit ready for all the patients. Yes, there is the risk of fracture of the buccal cortical layer, and we have to know how to manage it. But if we use this properly, most of our cases can be managed with the minimum of the grafting material required. Although I have shown many cases of GBR done along with the split, the 80% of not need any buccal augmentation with the graft. I most of the times avoid using the only if it is extremely needed, especially in the anterior region, we do it. So the difficulties are in cases where the bone quality is not good, extremely porous bone, where we may be able to do the split, but then we don't get a primary stability, or extremely dense bone, where these type of alveolar bone, they do not respond to our split and extensions. Cases which are having the less mesiodistal width, where it's difficult to manipulate such type of hourglass alveolar ridges. Yes, the buccal alveolar plate integrity may get compromised, and we have to manage it. We have to examine the buccal cortex. We have to think how we can manage it. If it is a discontinuation of the buccal cortex, first we should look at the thickness of the remaining cortical plate. If it is less, we should go for GBR. If the discontinuity is 1 or 2 mm at some place, especially at the prominence of the implant, go for GBR. If a lot of buccal cortical plate is lost, we can go for autogenous graft. We can adjust some PRF and the collagen membranes. If we lose the complete buccal cortical plate, then we can think of putting some buck grafts and finishing the case with putting the collagen sheet. If we have lost a lot of buccal bone, then we should not think of going with the immediate implant placement. We can do the GBR procedure with good grafting, and then secondarily we can enter the osteotomy site for putting the implant. The complications possible here are the osteotome patient may get vertigo. I think with these type of instruments available, we may not use the osteotomes. We have to be very careful in positioning 3D position the implants. Facial buccal inclination is a problem sometimes in osteomobilization, and buccal bone fracture may occur. Thank you very much. With this, I end up my presentation. Thank you very much, CRMS and all the participants, Dr. Praveen, Dr. Vrinda, Dr. Shenoy, my head of the department, Datarkar, and my husband, Dr. Manekar, with whom I have done many cases, and many of cases which I have done with him are finished by him in his laboratory. So all the most of the processes cases done in the clinic are done by him, and he's a great support for me in doing the implant cases. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Varsha. That was excellent. Yes. Praveen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I have
Yes.
forwarded a few questions to you.
Yes, sir.
And ask them.
Congratulations, ma'am. Congratulations, ma'am. It was very elaborative and comprehensive presentation as far as this technique is concerned, and the variety of cases you have shown. Though routinely we are not doing these cases, but I also getting fascinated to do these cases because it is avoiding the second surgery for the grafts what we are taking from the anterior maxillary tuberosity region. It is a fantastic way you have presented. I have got few questions. One is that out of these three techniques for your ridge expansion, like split technique, guided bone regeneration, GBR, and DO, distraction osteogenesis, which you consider is the superior? This is one question.
Very good question, because these are the three different techniques. In our evaluation of the case, if you remember, I had shown the classification of the ridges. So considering the position of the available for the osteotomy, we have to take decision. There are cases which can be treated both by GBR and ridge split. So my preference is using the ridge split because we are using a native bone over there. We can supplement it with GBR. That will give a best result. And I don't do distraction osteogenesis because nowadays we can go for some graftless solutions if we can do other methods. So I have not done any distraction osteogenesis. My preference is for the new technique of the ridge split along with the GBR. But if the ridge width is less than 3 mm, then I will go for the autogenous bone and GBR.
Yes, ma'am. Totally agreed and convinced because it is providing the very less invasive technique. Good. And the second question is that what is the effect of ridge split procedure on the soft tissues as far as the anterior maxillary aesthetic zone is concerned?
Okay, I think I answered this question initially, because definitely the volume of the alveolus is increasing and we have to manage the buccal soft tissue. Second thing is sometimes the epithelium may be there, but still even after the ridge expansion, we can see in the soft tissue there is a defect seen. That is managed by the collagen shift graft from the palate. So it depends on the outcome of the ridge split. We have to examine the ridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Praveen,
any questions?
Yeah,
Yes,
Praveen,
sir.
I think I have WhatsApped it to you.
Yes, sir. How to manage the alveolar cluster deficiency other than the synthetic bone grafts and autografts?
Now this crystal deficiency is a very vague term.
Yes.
We have to divide it into vertical deficiency and a horizontal deficiency. Vertical deficiency is very difficult to overcome. It requires a good GBR procedure. And the horizontal deficiency, I just now told you, you have to go either for GBR, resplit technique, or resplit with GBR.
Okay. Varsha, there is another question which I think you have answered, but I'll ask you again because I think she joined a little late. This is from Dr. Kriti. He says, how useful is the ultrasonic bone scalpel for the osteotomy cut? This is, I think you answered it for the.
Yeah, it is very good. It is very good to give that longitudinal crestal osteotomy. It is very good. But the advantage in the disc using is, in the kit, there are three width discs are available. It is 5 mm, it is 8 mm and 10 mm. So we are getting a depth. We are going to the depth of our osteotomy. So if we are using a 8 mm disc, so our vertical osteotomy is going through till 8 mm. So when we are expanding with the expanders, then it is easy for the buccal plate to move buccal.
Okay.
That is not the case in the piezoelectric tips.
Okay, now this question, Praveen, I'm sorry, I don't have the time to forward it to you, but with your
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
So this is that, now this is a question which I think can be answered by self. What is the management of profuse bleeding while doing splitting? Should we place the implant or delay the procedure?
Basically, the bleeding may come from the cancellous bone. So we have to continue. If we put the implant, it can be controlled by the pressure packs. If you have broken the cortex, then we have to give the pressure packs, control the bleeding with the pressure packs and do GBR. Thirdly, if it is really profuse bleeding, you may have damaged the inferior alveolar canal. Then we have to may have to abandon the procedure if it is very severe, or if you can wait and it gets controlled, many a time it gets controlled, then you can continue with your procedure.
Okay.
Very rarely we get that bleeding from the lingual side in the anterior region if you have ignored that nutrient artery which comes from the lingual region in the incisal region of the mandible. And secondly, when we this GBR in the edentulous patients, many a times this blood, even if it is controlled at the time of surgery, later on you will see some ecchymosis on the lingual side or on the buccal side of the patient post-operatively after 12 hours.
Okay, Praveen, I have WhatsApp one question to you, please. Praveen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Praveen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ma'am, one question is there. Piezo can be used for both condensation as well as mobilization.
Piezo kits don't have the tips to expand. It has a tip to cut the bone. We can use those tips for preparing the implant osteotomy, but which we will get with the reach expanders, the motorized reach expanders, those are the actually non-cutting implant burrs, implant drills. So those will give the best effect than the implant osteotomy tips available in the piezo kit.
Yes, ma'am. One question. What instruments you will prefer, ma'am? Manual like chisel, mallet, osteotomes, or this piezo? Which is the best for the use? Convention.
Of course, when I started, there was no definite thing available. I tried the splitting with the burr. I tried splitting with round burrs, with the tapered burrs. And then that time we had a kit of Endopore. It was having the malleting type of we used to use that for the splitting. I have never used osteotomes or chisels. Then I have used piezo, which is available in my department. Thanks to the HOD, he is giving us all the new equipments in the department. So we have used piezo for the reach split, but then for the expansion, the instruments are not available in the piezo. my friends nowadays, and in most of the cases, even in the moderate deficient region, I keep my resplit kit available, and then I take the decision after exposing and measuring the reach mapper whether I need to expand little 1 or 2 mm to put. If I have planned 4 mm without doing the 4 mm implant without doing the split, I can put 4.5 or 5 mm implant by doing the split, and that is very much essential in the posterior region. So that way I use my resplit kit even in the cases which we can finish by putting little narrower implants.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you are really lucky to use these piezo instruments, which definitely give you clean, smooth, and atraumatic cutting of the bone tissues. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. Vipin Dehane was all praises for your documentation, Varsha. And I'm sure so many people are very, they're very happy with the way you presented and you documented the cases.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
I I congratulate ma'am for your very comprehensive and clinical presentation. Really, you can get the things from your clinical cases also, and I also extend my thanks to CIOMS for giving me opportunity to moderate this session, particularly Shenoy sir. And it is CIOMS which are conducting the series of implants that is definitely going to help the all people, particularly oral and maxillofacial surgeons and other surgeons who are practicing implantology. Very good initiative, sir. Very good initiative.
yeah, thank you, Praveen, for those kind words.
Shinoy sir,
Yes,
this is Dr. Vipin. I want to add something regarding the last question which ma'am has discussed.
Yeah,
There are few combination techniques available nowadays
right.
with your expanders.
Uh-huh.
If you do a resplit with your asset kit, which madam is routinely used, you can do a condensation with another instruments, or you can use a Tenshaber for that. And if you use a physio surgery unit, you can do expansion with the asset kit also. All this experiment I had tried from last 3 years, and I'm getting a comfortable results for that. So if you are very much used to your physio surgery unit, then you can use this asset kit condensation instrument for that. All you can use an ossifying burrs for that. So basically the intention is to expand the reach apart from which instrument you are using. So if you cut with your burr, if you cut with your asset kit, if you cut with your physio, it doesn't make any difference. The difference is your osteotomy burrs which you are using for expansions and condensations. So anywhere anything can be used for expansion as per the quality of bone. Because if you use this condensation burr from the asset kit in the D1 bone, ultimately you will fracture the buccal cortex. So in that case, you have to use some other densifying burrs for that, rather than using the condensing burrs.
Okay.
Am I right, ma'am?
Yes, you valid.
Yes.
Actually, you are using it since many years. So the point you have added has a lot of clinical value. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So for the benefit of the viewers, this is the implant session that is going on. So tomorrow we have surgical prosthetic synergy by Ketan Garg and Neha Garg. So the time is 4 o'clock. And then on Monday we have Dr. Vipin Dehane who will be speaking on pitfalls in pitfalls in implantology. So please join for that. I have one task to do. So I have to honor the speakers and the moderator. So this I have to present the certificate. So thank you, Dr. Varsha.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you for presenting such an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Both
Thank
also
you.
complimented. So many people have complimented. Dr. Hirkani has complimented you for your presentation. So I think that's a very big thing.
Good of them.
Yes, and I'm sure that in the days to come we'll have more people will be there. And this is for Dr. Praveen. Praveen, thank you for excellently moderating the session. We thank all the participants who joined, senior practitioners, residents, senior professors and all. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on Saturday at 4 p.m. Thank you so much.
तो आप लोग कब आ रहे हो फिर अपने एग्जाम के लिए? आई थिंक आपको आके फिर क्वारंटाइन भी होना पड़ेगा आई थिंक फॉर 14 days.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We have a closing word. Can I have the closing word?
We have Abhilasha who also joined.
Hi, Abhilasha.
Hello, ma'am.
So,
To hear your song.
so thank you so much. I think there's some. Okay. So I think this will be the end of the session. Thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thank you so much.
Yes, on Saturday.
Presentation.
Thank you very much, all of you.